Hi, I'm Richard Vague with Tychos. We're taking this week off from hardcore analysis due to the Labor Day holiday, but we did want to leave you with this brief excerpt from one of the most literate books ever written on the subject of money, James Buchan's 1997 masterpiece, Frozen Desire. Buchan is one of the most insightful commentators on Adam Smith, and here is his take on, quote, the invisible hand. Adam Smith attempts to give money a scientific foundation, Buchan writes. For that purpose, he makes use of a piece of metaphysics, a metaphor that belongs more in a thriller than in a work of philosophy, the invisible hand. The phrase has a curious history and meaning, which we shall now reconstruct. In Daniel Defoe's Moll Flanders, printed in 1722, it is a euphemism for ill luck or retribution, quote, an almost invisible hand that blasted all my happiness, end quote. In Smith's first use of the phrase, in his juvenile History of Astronomy, it is the supernatural agency to which primitive peoples attribute irregular or alarming natural phenomenon. By 1759, when Smith published The Theory of Moral Sentiments, that malign and unpredictable force has instead become the good God of the Stoics, who has arranged the universe so that all events, even the most alarming, work toward the prosperity and perfection of the whole. The invisible hand is now money, which captures selfish or silly human sentiments and enchannels them to every corner of society in a neutral form that anybody can use. The wealthy, Smith writes, quote, divide with the poor the produce of all their improvements. They are led by an invisible hand to make nearly the same distributions of necessaries of life which would have been made had the earth been divided into equal portions among its inhabitants, end quote. 15 years later, in The Wealth of Nations itself, Smith's wonderful machine is promoting GDP. The businessman has no interest in the annual revenue of society, and, Smith writes, quote, although by directing that industry in such a manner as its produce may be of the greatest value, he intends only his own gain, he is in this, as in many other cases, led by an invisible hand to promote an end that was in no part his intention, end quote. In other words, whatever you do, it will have good effect. How soothing to ruthless minds and bad commercial consciences. When in the spring of 1787, late in life, and 11 years after the printing of Wealth, Smith came down to London to enjoy his celebrity, he stayed at the Lord Advocate's villa in Wimbledon. And once he came downstairs, the grandees Pitt, Grenville, and Henry Addington all stood up. Quote, we will stand until you are first seated, said the gentleman, for we are all your scholars, end quote. Indeed, for Smith had given those people, in Joan Robinson's admiring phrase, quote, the ideology to end all ideologies, for it abolished the moral problem. It is only necessary for each individual to act egoistically for the good of all to be attained, end quote. Smith had taken a religious metaphor and, without irony or even self-consciousness, applied it to money. In so doing, Smith converted the self-serving business slogans of the 17th century city of London into a creed. Thanks. Have a happy and restful Labor Day, and we'll see you next week.